Hi, guys. So, unfortunately, Judge was not able to join us tonight. For those of you that do follow us on a regular basis, welcome to As the Law Turns. We are so excited to have you. We unfortunately was not able to be joined by Judge Fields, but we do have a special guest tonight, and I am excited to have him on. We're talking about celebrity family law drama. That's what tonight is about, guys. And
Indeed.
and I thought it was a pretty cool topic, especially in light of the Johnny Depp and his divorce situation going on. And in light of our fun topic, I'm not going to quite get into it yet. But for those of you who are not our normals and are just joining us for the first time, thank you, thank you, thank you. I started this show in an effort to show more Black faces of law because only 5% of lawyers in the United States are Black. According to the American Bar Association, 88% of all lawyers are white and only 5% are Black. When you narrow those numbers down even more, you get 2% are women and 3% are Black men. So I said, hey, maybe we need to start seeing some more visuals so that we can get more Black people or Black kids interested in law. So here I am, and I started As the Law Turns, and we don't talk about the law in deep form. We talk about the law in fun form. We give you current events and fun things like that, and we tell you, hey, what could happen, what is happening, and just kind of shoot the breeze. Now, as per usual, you guys know that you can have your comments in the bottom. We will read off your comments. We will discuss with you and take a picture of the disclaimer. Once again, no, we're not your attorneys, guys. If you want to retain us, go to our website. This is for entertainment purposes only. This is not, I repeat, a consultation. You don't know you, they ain't happening. So I'm so excited to have my guest tonight, Mr. Marcus Sermons. I'm going to have him introduce himself, and then we're going to dive right into our topic.
No, well, I'm Marcus Sermons. I am a practicing Florida attorney, and I suppose that's just about it in general. Just excited about being here. Was looking forward to meeting Judge Fields, at least electronically, but I'm just looking forward to being, I guess, educational, potentially, and entertaining, maybe.
Hey, I'm gonna make sure we make it fun. So, tonight is an interesting topic for multiple reasons. As I was looking at the Johnny Depp Amber Heard divorce that we talked about last week, I started looking at divorces in Hollywood. And I came across this article that said country music stars have some of the most expensive divorces in the United States. And I thought to myself, why? But then I thought, who are these country music stars? I know my brain was all over the place. So I said, I have to figure this thing out. So apparently there was an article done that got caught up in, the storm of everything over the last 2 or 3 days. And it literally says the costly divorces of country music stars. They list stars such as Kelly Clarkson and Brandon Blackstone, Kelly Musgrave, Casey Musgraves, Rustin Kelly, Reba McEntire and Narvell Blackstone, Leanne Rhymes. I mean, it goes down the list. And people, when I tell you that these are expensive divorces, I believe one of them said $40 million.
Wow. I would definitely not have mind being on one of the ends of the $40 million case.
I
Definitely would
was
not
like,
have minded that.
actually, no, no. Let me go back and reread it. Brooks reportedly paid Maul $125 million. I'm sorry, in their divorce settlement. It is
Oh, okay,
considered
okay, okay. I thought you were talking about the attorney's fees. You're talking about
no.
what
I
the
wish.
settlements were.
Yes,
Okay, so that makes more sense. Um, yeah, that makes a little bit more sense. But divorce cases are yeah, they're they're something. My firm does a decent amount of divorce cases, and I can tell you that when you get into the family law realm of things,
right.
it's kind of weird the way that it works. But most of the
Uh-huh.
time, when the people have a decent amount of money, that's actually when you end up getting the most fighting. In my experience, anyway, it's not necessarily what you would expect to people, for people to get in there and have a whole bunch of fighting about the kids, right?
Yes,
But they they do not fight as much about the children in most instances as they do about stuff. Stuff
really.
and money is probably the thing that will make people be the most nitpickiest that you can ever imagine people being. And it can be a bit pricey when people start getting caught up in their feelings and everybody's being vindictive.
Wow.
And yeah, it's weird.
So one of the most popular divorces was that divorce. Garth Brooks and Sandy Mall were apparently married in 1986. They got divorced 14 years later. They reported, according to a 2020 article about celebrity divorces by Marie Claire, it's the sixth most expensive divorce.
Wow.
Ooh, wow. I'm
That
just
doesn't
like,
sound like a good list to be on. It doesn't. Unless you're the attorney.
exactly.
Of the
I'm
case.
figuring like, my attorney's fees of 125.
Yeah,
Look,
unfortunately though, for most of us, uh our clients aren't going to be in a position to have that kind of money, and so we won't be earning those kinds of fees on the cases. But they can be a bit pricey. Like I say, I mean, typically the more assets that people have, the more it is that they fight about, especially when there are things that aren't quite clear with regard, like for instance, if there's at least when you're talking about Florida law, different states have different laws as it relates to how they approach the assets of the marriage. In some states, they refer to everything as basically community property. And other ones is not quite that way. Well, in Florida, the way that it works is if you get it during the marriage, unless there's like some sort of agreement that says otherwise, or there are special circumstances, then it's pretty much going to count as a marital asset. So, like if your parents pass away and your parents leave you an inheritance, then it's relatively clear that that's going to be yours. But if you take whatever it is, the money that your parents may have left you, and then you put it into a joint account with your spouse and you commingle it, well, the way that the law looks at it is kind of like if you take two different bottles of water and you pour them in a bucket together, how are you going to separate those water molecules back into their individual buckets? And the answer is you can't. So once you put all this money into the same account together and you've commingled it, you mix it with marital funds. Now all of it, in essence, becomes marital. But then you'll have people that will fight about that kind of stuff. And you may have one side trying to argue that no, there's a way we can differentiate between what was marital and what was non-marital. Blah blah blah. We can look at the amounts, but it's not quite that simple. So that may be a situation where people would fight. And if you're talking about a lot of money, folks
uh-huh.
don't like to just give up their
Oh,
lot of money
no. I ain't
that
gonna do that on
easy.
purpose. Exactly. I like the way you explain commingling. So when we have these big legal words, we like to break them down for everybody. I love the way you explained it. It's like pouring water, two separate water bottles. You got Dasani and you got Zephyr Hills. Now this may be slightly different. Dasani and Zephyr Hills. Don't come after me. Um, you pour them both into a cup. How do you know what part of the cup was Zephyr Hills and how do you know what part of the cup was Dasani? You don't.
And you
So
don't.
exactly. So that's what we mean when we say co-mingling. That means you put your assets so tightly knit with the other person's that it's hard to differentiate. Thereby, the court said, "Well, sounds to me like y'all did that together."
Indeed, and so it's not always that simple. But if you, like I say, I mean, if you get into a situation where it's clear, like for instance, if for example, the wife owned a house prior to them getting married, and she always keeps that house separate. Maybe she has a renter in it or something like that, and she never uses any of the money from the marriage to pay for bills over at that rental house. Then more likely than not, as long as she doesn't do something else to mess it up, then it's going to stay as separate property.
Okay.
But here's another one that I think is pretty interesting under Florida law that kind of gets people mixed up.
Ooh, okay.
So when you get up and go to work every day at your job and you earn money at your job as the husband, right? I'll use it because I'm a guy, so I'll just say as a husband. So you get up every day, you go to work as a husband, you earn money, and you then take your paycheck and pay off a mortgage on a house that you bought before you got married, right? Now, there are different arguments on how this will work, and to the extent that that house in some regards becomes at least partially marital property, but your paycheck is marital property. So if you take your paycheck, which is marital property, and you pay on a house that you owned before you got married, you've at least in part converted part of the equity in your house to marital property. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? So it's just little stuff like that that sometimes gets people caught up because people are gonna like, I went to work and I worked every day. I got the money for this. I did this. Me. And Florida law looks at it a little bit differently. Like your marital labor and your efforts is the property also of your spouse just as much as it's yours. So
Wow. Yeah, yeah. Mm-mm. I ain't fond of that. Florida laws could be real funky around here. But one cool one that I thought too from the article was Kelly Clarkson and Brandon Blackstone. I got a little bit of news today too. Apparently, he is Reba McEntire's stepson, as she her divorce that was also on the list. Um,
mm,
she married his dad. Anywho, getting back to the story, their divorce lasted almost 2 years. They filed for divorce in Kelly Clarkson filed for divorce in 2020. The proceedings were not finalized until this year, March of this year, in which she was ordered to pay Blackstone a one-time payment of $1.3 million, monthly child support of $45,601, and until January 31st, 2024, monthly spousal support of $115,000.
mm, mm. That's tough. that's
When I
tough.
read that, I was like, first of all, is he not a somewhat manager, producer? So what makes them think that she's the one that's got to pay him? And she filed for divorce, by the way.
Well, so it doesn't necessarily matter who pays. So just assuming that whatever state they're in, if their laws are similar to the way that we do things over here in the great state of Florida, old Sunshine State, right? If you have one spouse who is making considerably more than the other, and so let me back up. Let me back up just a little bit. All right. So the way that the alimony stuff works is one person's need versus the other person's ability to pay. That's going to be one of the most important things. So here we have statutes that govern with regard to how long the alimony could be based on how long it is that you've been married. So you have short-term marriages, a mid-term duration marriage, and then you have a long-term marriage. The longer you've been married, the more likely it is that you're going to pay alimony, and the more likely it is that you could potentially end up with permanent alimony.
Okay.
But anyway, so you start looking into a whole bunch of different factors, but the most important of which is going to be the need versus the ability to pay. Then you start looking into a whole bunch of things like the quality of life and the standard of living during the marriage, one person's contribution to the other person's success, whether or not they stayed home and took care of the kids, whether or not they gave up aspects of their own career, and just different things like that. So if you look at it from the standpoint of starting with the need versus the ability, the fact that she had to give him 1.3 million shows that during the marriage she was getting it in pretty good, even though they were only married for a couple of years.
They
So that
were.
means that she earned decently. And if you look at it like what she earned is marital property, then he's entitled to his cut, so
I
to
mean,
speak.
she did win 3 Grammys and have 15 Grammy nominations throughout the time that she's been in the limelight. And I think in 2011, she was honored by the Academy of Country Music Awards for reaching #1 on country music Billboard charts of "Don't You Want to Stay." But yes, they only were married for a little bit of time. I want to say what 2013, according to the article, they got married, and she filed for divorce in 2020. So I don't do math. If I did math, I would have been adopted. Hold on. Just
Roughly 7 years or so before she filed.
yes. I was about to do the hand method one. Don't judge me. Like I said, if I had to count numbers regularly, I'd have been a doctor. I chose lawyering because it was talking. So I was just sitting there like, what? Now, For those of you that do know me, I handle mostly business law and criminal defense. So I haven't dabbled as much in family law. So even to me, I was thinking to myself, man, I am not paying this man $115,000 a job. I
Oh,
couldn't.
oh. So when it comes to something like that, right? So when you're looking at the child support, you're like, it does not take that much money to raise a kid. Well,
It does.
the way the law looks at it is that your children are entitled to live the way you live. So if you have it like that, then your children need to have it like that. And so, that you run formulas and you punch the numbers into the formula based on how much time the children are spending with each parent, how much each parent is making, the needs of the children, if they have like special needs or special medical conditions where it's a little bit more expensive to take care of them, or you're looking at stuff like the cost of daycare and that kind of thing, that gets
Mhm.
factored into the child support calculations. But for the most part, the biggest factor that they have here is the fact that these people are loaded. That's what's making the difference. That they're making all that money, so you have to give all that money away and let the babies live like mama and papa live.
Well, I ain't mad at it going to the kids. In all honesty, and I misquoted the numbers: 45,000 for child support. It's 115,000 for spousal support. That to me was like, sir, you are manager, ex manager, whatever. Go find some artists. Like, find some people. You don't have to take. But they do have a cap on it. So for those that are nervous about this, once again, we're not your lawyers. We're not giving you legal advice. For those that are like, what? They do have a cap on it. He's not to pay her until 20. It's until 2024. So January 31st, 2024, she would no longer have to pay him the $115,000 of spousal support. I'm just sitting. I still was baffled. I was also baffled by his stepmother's divorce as well. Reba McEntire and Narvel Blackstone. Apparently, their divorce was in 2015, and allegedly Blackstone settled for $47.5 million.
Must be nice. Must be nice.
47. I mean, do you know the funny part about the word settlement? Sometimes you realize the settlement literally means I like took less than I would have taken. Settlement, settled for something. You settled for $47 million.
Yeah, sometimes that's what it is, but other times, people end up getting exactly what it is that they otherwise would have gotten when they went to court. It's just a matter of, do you want to spin your wheels fighting over something that's going to be a certain way anyhow, just based on what the law says and based on what the facts are. But other times you have people who will just say, you know what, the heck with it. I'm going to continue to fight tooth and nail. And if somebody's going to take my money, the judge is going to have to make me give away my money because I'm not going to do it voluntarily. And they just keep on fighting about it. But yeah, I mean, there's a wide variety of different reasons that people will come into a situation with regard to the divorces, or as we call them, dissolutions of marriage. Um, but anyway, they come into it, and sometimes people just don't want to fight. People are tired. Sometimes folks are like, you know what? I don't want anything. I just want to get rid of this person so I could go on about my life. And so you're correct that sometimes they settle for less than what they would have otherwise gotten, but other times, you get exactly what you are entitled to, and sometimes people hit a windfall and get more than what they probably would have been able to get in court. And that's when you know that the enemy just really wanted to get rid of you. When they give you more than what you're entitled to,
They're
they
like,
just
"Get
want you gone.
go,
They
ah,
just want
leave
you
me
gone.
alone."
Yeah, you got to go.
The funny part about this, since we're talking about people getting together and then splitting up, what about people getting together that were never married? I'm calling this new thing. Nick Cannon apparently released new photos of his new baby mama. I believe this is baby mama number 5, which makes this number 8 kid. Um, he has 2 from Mariah Carey and some other women, models, if I'm not mistaken. And this particular woman is into high end real estate from what I saw on her profile. So now we're diving into not married co parenting parent situations. Now I'm calling the Nick Cannon Harem. I know if you want to come for me, he just wants to come. It's literally like it's like an old age, old modern harem. Like they separate women just having random children. Like it's like, bruh. And he apparently did an article where he has no plans on slowing down. He
Wow.
has determined that he
Hmm.
wants to do this. Like this is an actual decision he's making. These babies are not accidents. The women he's choosing apparently are not accidents. So I'm thinking to myself, there has to be some family law things that's probably going to eventually. Because I mean, after a while, don't somebody in the harem get mad? I'm just look all the Chinese dramas I ever watched.
Hey, maybe Nick is just choosing very carefully, and he's choosing very, very wisely, and he's not gonna have that problem. You know.
Attorney Rivers is on. Hi, Attorney Rivers. He said he wants as many as he can afford. That is exactly what he said. He wants to have as many children, as many baby mamas as he can afford. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I know he got some money. These divorce settlements that I was paying attention to, and all this child support. Well, sir, what happens if baby mama number 4 get mad at baby mama number 7? They get into some kind of what happens when your harem get in disarray? Like, what you gonna do? So,
Yeah, the biggest issue that I see though is like, at least in my opinion, when you have these kids that are siblings, they need to try to be as much like siblings as they possibly can. But when you start having kids from that many different people at the same time, then how are you going to coordinate having all these kids together so that they can be siblings? And then when you have one that gets mad at the other and like, I don't want my children over there, because sometimes people have the tendency to be incredibly petty, right? And so, but anyway, that's the big thing that I see. Apparently, if he can afford it financially, that's perfectly fine. But again, when you start having people all over the place, and it looks like say all the kids are in different states, oh man,
I believe so. I believe
that's yeah,
at
that's
least
crazy.
in 3 separate states, and there are 8 kids, if I'm not mistaken. I do believe that it's at least 3 separate states. So I'm just like, sir, this is literally like, has he not seen any Chinese dramas during you know, the ancient periods when the kings had all these troubles and issues trying to stay alive?
Well, apparently he doesn't care, and you said that he says as many as he can afford. So my understanding is Nick has all those jobs, he's making all that money. So we all know what he likes to do in his spare time, apparently, and he's a baby factory in his spare time. So whenever he's not working, if he can keep getting that money, I suppose it's okay.
Most important, okay. Miss Williams said, most importantly, relationship of the children when they become adults. I know, right? I'm sure gonna be like, but, but daddy, but did you get that reminds me of Peter Gunn's. His kids was like, Dad, you need to stop having children. I wonder if Nick Cannon kids gonna come forward one day and be like, yeah, you need to stop the factory, sir. Pause. Put the lockdown
Indeed,
on
you would be amazed though at how many people, even folks that don't have that kind of money, but people running around here in the Jacksonville area that have a bunch of kids and seem to be baby factories. I don't get it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love my babies, but I've had my fill, and I would not voluntarily try to send myself back through that anymore. My
I hear
youngest is
kids are
15, and
expensive.
I think I'm finished. I'm done.
Hey, I don't blame you. He said, Shaquille said he can pay, but he can't be in every state helping them raise the kids and spend the time. I agree with that. And I think that's kind of sad because they're in the different places. I know he's got the money to fly back and forth, but that's still going to be on probably certain holidays, birthdays, things like that. They won't get the full time with him. And, he just, I guess he did his harem a little smarter though than the Chinese dramas, because they in different states, so it's harder for them to get mad at each other because they're not in the same city. You know what I'm saying? Like normally when the harem happens, they all in the same palace. They live in like the cold palace or the rose petal palace, but they're not living together. So maybe he's staving off their issues with each other by them not being in the same state.
So are these actual relationships? Are these like planned pregnancies? Do you know?
From what I understand from his talking about it, they are planned pregnancies. He doesn't stress that they're relationships necessarily, um, because it appears that the occurrence of the kids comes pretty much within about 8 months to a year, so far over the last couple of years of each other. So I don't believe they're probably like deep seated relationships. Um, but he's definitely going around and saying, that they are planned. So it is his intention to put his name on that birth certificate. Which,
Mm.
by the way, I actually heard something, and I don't remember what state it is, that they are going to now allow fathers to put a pause on having to put their names on birth certificates without DNA testing. I know.
So I'm not 100% sure. I definitely is not necessarily something that that I've looked into. I had a reason to look into, but my understanding, at least here in Florida, I don't think that you are as the father. I don't think they make you put your name on the birth certificate, I guess is what I'm saying, because there are a decent amount of times where there's birth certificates that do not have a father listed at all. I do know that when people are married and they're husband and wife, legally the father, I mean the husband is going to be the father of the child legally, regardless of whether or not he is biologically the child's father. Legally, the husband is considered the father. But as far
Mhm.
as when you have two people that are out there, having babies together and they're not married, I don't think that they're going to force them to actually put the name on the birth certificate or sign it or whatnot. I don't think so anyway, but I'm not sure on that.
Hmm. Okay. Well, that made me think about marriage and wedding laws and statistics in the United States. The most recent article was done in 2018. By the way, for those that don't know, this little bit about family law I do know. Attorney Rivers posted here that he says they're not relationships. After Mariah, he vowed to never have another relationship unless it was with Mariah. Mariah started the babies, so she's the first baby mama. And that was his actual marriage. One relationship would take priority over the other. I agree. I think one set of kids are probably just going to get more time with him than the other set, unfortunately. But it's his harem. He's gonna do what he likes to do with it.
Mm.
But in the state of Florida, I don't remember when it happened, but I know it's been fairly recent-ish. And by recent-ish, I mean like in the last 5 years, maybe six. Um, they no longer recognize common law marriage.
Yeah, common law
So
marriage, I believe, has been done in Florida. It's been a while, I believe. If my memory serves correctly, it's been a while. I've actually litigated uh, those issues before, which is in another one of my areas of I won't say areas of expertise, but one of my practice areas. So I get into decent amount of, in addition to family law, but probate and trust litigation. And so I've been involved in cases where the common law marriage theme popped up with regards to trying to get our particular client priority to be in control of some things with regard to an estate. And anyhow, it was we were just trying to find arguments to make versus them being in Florida versus them being in Georgia for a while, and just trying to say, well, when they were in Georgia back in 1970 something or 60 something, Georgia still recognized common law marriages. Or actually, I may have that mixed up. It may be that Florida outlawed it before Georgia did, or vice versa. I can't remember which one. But anyway, a decent portion of the arguments that were being made in that case hinged upon when Florida versus when Georgia outlawed common law marriage. And I want to say it's been a while for both of them. I think so anyway.
I just thought I'd put that out there because I have recently, even though I'm not in family law, have heard from quite a few people. They're like, "Oh, we're in a common law marriage," and they're in the state of Florida, and I'm like, the state of Florida looking at you like, "Who? Where? What?"
Yeah. If you were in a common law marriage in the place where you came from, and then you come here to Florida, Florida will recognize it, right? They won't just kick you to the curb, but you can't come here in Florida and then establish it. That's not going to work. Definitely won't work.
Exactly. Exactly. Since we talk about funky divorces, marriages, and all things relationship weirdness. I thought it was kind of cute to look up a few fun facts about marriage. According to an article that was written, it's been a couple years now, but I still think it's got some relevance. Reader's Digest a couple years ago. There are some fun laws on the books about marriage. So in Vermont, I thought this one was kind of funny. In Vermont, a wife must obtain written permission from her husband before wearing false teeth.
You can't have your wife running around here if you don't want her to with these off-brand porcelain veneers just around here embarrassing you in these streets.
I'm like, I'm like the laws that have
You
gone
have
on
to
the book.
approve that.
This
You
is
know,
some funny stuff.
you have to
Oh,
approve that.
here's one that people are really going to be upset about. It is grounds for divorce in Wichita, Kansas, to mistreat the mother-in-law. So, ladies,
Well,
just
well. So, all right. So check this out. Right. So there are some places where you actually have to have a reason to get a divorce.
ooh,
In Florida, ours just has to be irretrievably broken. Did I lose you? What happened? Uh-oh. Feeling like I broke something. I'm going to give you a second to get back in here with me. So I'm not left out here stranded by myself right now. There you go. There you go.
all
So
right.
so check this out, right? In some places you actually have to have like a decent reason to get divorced. But in Florida, you just have to say that your marriage is broken. As long
Yep.
as one person believes that it's so broken to the point that it can't be fixed, then you can get a divorce. Or as I believe that's Judge Walensky used to say, it was like, well, what if we lock you in the room for a few hours with Dr. Phil? Can Dr. Phil fix it? And so if Dr. Phil can't fix your relationship and it's irretrievably broken, that you can just wake up in the morning and not like the way your husband looks. So like, you know what? Your face is so terrible that our marriage is broken. And you can go and file for a divorce. You don't necessarily have to have a good reason for
Poor little
it.
tink tink.
Yeah, that's actually kind of sad, that Florida makes it that easy. There are some other places I want to say, and I'll let you get back. I'm sorry, I'm going to try not to
No,
usurp your
no.
facts
This is
over
the
there,
whole
but
point of you being
it's
on here. And
it's
I do want to read a comment real fast. It says, so does the husband have to fund the care of the teeth?
she would ask that.
Only a lawyer would ask this question. For those of you that don't know her, this is Attorney Rivers from Rivers Legal. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't look at that part. Attorney Rivers, I just decided to try to find some fun things. Like, for instance, if you've had 3 failed marriages in Kentucky, now this part is a little sexist, but it is what it is. Kentucky says that women should make smarter decisions, so they made it illegal to marry the same man 4 times.
Wow, wow. That's here's the thing, right? I'm not saying that I'm an advocate for people marrying the same person 4 times. I'm just thinking that it was happening enough for them to have to create a law for it. Wow. Yeah, that's kind of sad actually.
Ain't it though?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
here's another interesting one. You can marry your first cousin legally in Utah. Dun dun dun. Only if
yeah.
you are 65 years old.
Only if you're 65 years old. So I so let me throw this out here, right? Because I remember, well, before I decided to go to law school, I actually was pre-med and I wanted to be a doctor, right? And so I was very interested in different stuff like that as it relates to like the biology of that stuff. So from I'm gonna ask you to see if you can tell. I have some speculation, but why do you think they'll let you do it if you're over 65? Why do you think?
I don't know. I think you're too old at that point to go back. I often say once you hit the age of 50, you can do about anything you want. You don't live half the century. The rest of us can just suck it up.
If I had to guess, my guess is that they would allow you to do it if you're over 65 because you're not very likely to be reproducing by the time you get that old. And so
That's
what
a
I
point.
imagine that the law is aimed at creating a situation where you have babies who are like not quite properly developed, because because you know how they start talking about when you have the gene pool and all of these genes are similar, it's more likely that some of these recessive traits will come out and
Mhm.
it starts showing some, well, I want to be politically correct, so I'm not going to use the terms, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
You're more likely when family members are having babies and doing all of this stuff here, you're more likely to have a baby that comes out with three legs or something like that, because those recessive traits will start to show themselves. And so I'm thinking that they're assuming that people that hit that age bracket are not going to be having kids, and that's probably why they will allow you to do it once you get 65. That's my guess anyway.
One more fun fact before we have to call it. It's only 30 minutes, guys. I know we ran over a bit because it's been kind of fun, but I thought this was also kind of funny. For married couples to kiss in public on Sundays, you cannot kiss in public on Sundays. In Hartford, Connecticut, it is technically still illegal in the city for a man to kiss his wife on the Lord's Day.
Wow, that's a little interesting. I can't figure out a reason why they would
That
do that.
is. Because you're
Yeah,
supposed to
that's
be
weird.
with Jesus. Oh, y'all over here getting off track. Jesus trying to help y'all, and y'all over here off track. Y'all sidetracking. So
That's crazy.
it's crazy. So, guys, that's the world of family law. I mean, of course, we're going to have some more times we're going to talk about it, but I'm glad that you joined us tonight. Thank you so much, Attorney
Thank you for
Sermon.
having me.
It has been fun. And guys, don't forget to like us and share us. As I often say, I hear people saying all the time, "Oh, I love your show. Thank you. I'm so honored." Now share me so that other people can love me too. I'm on Facebook and I'm on YouTube. You can like and you can share. If you want to follow, I'm going to give you the name again. His name is Attorney Marcus Sermons, as you heard. He can help you do a divorce. He can put your trust and wills together. And he can also help you with,
Absolutely.
come on over. He got that. And then if you want to do the business side, I got you at Vivian Williams Law, or if you need a criminal defense attorney. It has been a pleasure being on with you guys tonight, and I am excited. Don't miss out next week. We got some more fun topics coming for you. Bye, guys.
You have a good night, my friend.